Good day, folks. Trying to experiment in the background, potentially trying to figure out what was going on with the quantum energy generator, and I think I was onto something with the one wire, and I think in part that's what was going on because it was doing, if you remember, very similar things like keywords like I was getting charged up and everything around it, suggesting, the ions. So that got me thinking, right? And I got another, it's like the high voltage module, but higher frequency, 400K, so just below the AM broadcast band here. And the same one wire setup here to further test the theory to charge the battery. And sure enough, the rectifier gives me DC right away. It's charging big capacitors to over 20 volts in just a few seconds. The battery will charge up. But I will show you as is an issue I was running into with this radiant, ionization and high frequency, which basically makes it so the rules are a little different because when we're talking about doing the open loop system, and in the case of Bedini and Tom Bearden, we basically have a clever way of chopping up the DC, and by intermittently connecting and disconnecting the load, that's our way of creating the open loop. But maybe we're looking at it not quite the right way, and maybe as much as that works, of course, that's one way of doing it, but maybe it's literal, one wire, don't actually make a loop. The generator, everything has to run on one wire. And when you do that, because of, whatever's in the environment, the ionization and the extra radiant energy that causes, that is your interaction with the vacuum right there. And maybe that's the hint, and Tesla may have had it with his one-wire system. Everyone who follows the one-wire system basically gets triggered from the nearby environment. So I'll show you what I mean, and it was doing a lot of what Bedini's radiant energy, and I will demonstrate. I just have this power on it. And what's interesting here, folks, is usually when people would have a generator like this, here's the high voltage AC output, what you would do is you would either run this on a voltage multiplier, rectify it, or send it to a spark gap. And in any case you're doing a traditional load, then the device starts working very hard, and this is where everything gets hot and amperage. But when it's just idling like this, it's completely resonant, and there's no direct coupling, so this energy that it baits in, what I'm getting at, is not draining any more of what it takes to keep it running, unless we would start spark gapping in and loading it traditionally. But because we're keeping it all on one wire, we're taking advantage of the high frequency and the ionization and rectifying that. But this is very crude, and I will show you what happens here. So I'm just going to plug that in. So now it's running nice, and you don't even hear it. But when we get our light really close to the battery, look what happens, see? The same thing as with Bedini, with the neons. And as I get close to the battery, it's really weird because plastic becomes conductive. You get sparks some places around the battery. I don't know if you see it there, but it's because it's daytime here. But as I see that when I touch the battery, there's a lot there. But you see, this is an issue I was having. Inverters are running, everything is running, but as soon as I touch the plastic around it, even I'm getting zapped across the room. Meanwhile, this thing is running cool. So I thought, and I found the solution along with a bit of a review and some research, and I'll show you what I did. Alright, so here is my solution, which might be one of the key from isolating that weird power I was getting with the quantum energy generator. So by the looks of it, those who follow alternative energy probably know what this is. It's an ion valve. Because I figured, hey, you know what, since we're wasting all this action going on here with the ions, we may as well do something with that. It's giving us our one-wire interaction. So here's my center rod here that goes in this tube here, and I got a carbon felt all around there for the space. And here's the wire here that comes out of that touches the carbon felt. It's a work in progress. What I want to do is create a small hole here and feed it with a little bit of hydrogen, just a little bit, because that increases the ion act. It's easier to charge hydrogen than oxygen, so more efficient. So what goes on here is, this is a way to convert the ion potentials into real electricity. So it's all about the ions here. Wait a minute, I heard that saying before. I'm not sure where, but I'm sure someone will bring it up. But that's ironic, isn't it? But yeah, that's what it is. So we're using the ions as a energy source, and we're converting that to DC. And this way here, folks, I have no more problems with shocking myself, and I'm getting the same DC I was getting out there. It instantly charges to over 20 volts of DC, and no more of this weird high frequency charging and zapping. We're actually doing something useful with it. And the same thing on one wire, the oscillator hardly even works, and we're getting all of this out of it. And it's the interaction. The ion valve, I think, is the key. So I will show you it. I will turn it on. So now power supply is on. You wouldn't even notice, but look at our meter. We're already at over, this is a cheap meter that only goes to 20 volts. But look what happens with my fluorescent now. You know, I'm not getting any zapping no more when I touch this stuff. Everything now is back to regular. This section here, along with the ion valve, isolates it all now and gives me that DC I'm looking for without stressing the input. But the potential is coming from the ions inside here. If I want more output, I would put hydrogen in here. But one thing at a time, folks. So I hope you enjoy, and I think this is the easiest way to isolate both of these energies and actually take advantage of the interaction to get a potential difference.